Hey everybody, and welcome back to the internet once again. I just noticed we just hit 2,000 subscribers today, so that's awesome. I honestly don't pay much attention to my subscriber count because over 95% of my views come from non-subscribers, but thanks to everyone who watches these videos anyways. So today we've got some more Entitled Parents stories, and we've got a few long ones here. Starting with, entitled kid sexually and mentally abuses me for 2 years, and entitled mom tries to tell me it's my own fault. Okay, so this took place over the span of 2 years, but I'm going to try and keep it short. When this first started, I was 14 and taking Japanese, and was also one of the top students. So a guy, this entitled kid, asked me to help him on his Japanese presentation. I did, because why not? I met the entitled kid in the library every lunchtime for about a week to help him finish it, and thought that that would be the end of it. Nope, entitled kid developed a crush on me, but I wasn't interested. I told him that, but he didn't want to give up. He started telling me how rich his parents were and how he could get anything he wants, to which I just told him to F off. He ended up stalking me for 2 years. He knew where I lived, what time I woke up and went to bed. He knew what bus I caught, when I would go get on and off the bus, and even knew my entire timetable at school. Naturally, I was freaked out, but it just got worse for those 2 years. This kid also mentally and sexually abused me. He was telling me how if I didn't hang out with him, he was going to kill himself and that it would be all my fault. I was young and scared, so I didn't want to go to the police. I was scared for my life. So for 2 years I put up with him, until I finally had the courage to speak up last year. I went to the police and they told me they would look into it. I also contacted the school, telling them about his threats to kill himself, so they got in contact with his parents. Good God, Satan is real. These entitled parents are literal demons. After the school got in contact with them, they blamed me for entitled kid's mental instability because I wasn't dating him, and I refused to be his girlfriend. They were saying I'm selfish because their poor baby deserves love and he is too good for me anyway. Then the police got in contact with them. I was very fortunate, as other girls from my school had come forward to the police saying that entitled kid has abused them too, and there was even evidence with the screenshots, so the police had to make a move. They told the entitled parents about some abuse, and he was put on a child sex offenders list. They were so freaking wild. The entitled parents approached me and my parents after school one day, and the following conversation ensued. So the entitled mom says, "Hello, you're Miss Gat's parents, yes?" My mom says, "Yes, we are, and I'm guessing you are the entitled kid's parents?" The dad says, "Yes, we just needed to talk about your daughter's false accusations on our son." I just stared at them in disbelief, whilst my mother is fuming, and my dad speaks up. He says, "I'm sorry, did you say false accusations?" He says, "Yes, how dare she accuse our entitled kid of such horrid things?" I say, "I'm sorry, how dare I? How dare you raise such a hideous person?" The entitled mom and dad stand there for a second before entitled mom gets really mad. "It is girls like you that make this society so sensitive and easily offended. My poor boy did nothing wrong. It is stupid that boys can't express themselves and the way they feel nowadays. He just wanted you to go out with him, and you wouldn't, so it's your fault that this happened." At this point, I'm crying hysterically, and my parents are absolutely disgusted that a grown woman would speak to a 16-year-old like that. She says, "Are you hearing yourself? How do you think sexual abuse is okay? It's no joke, and you should have raised your son better. The fact that you are blaming my daughter for your son's actions just goes to show that the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Don't you ever approach us again, and keep your sorry excuse of a son away from my daughter." My parents then walked away with me in tow, whilst the entitled parents were screaming profanities at us. I haven't spoken to the kid since all this went down. He tries to approach me at school sometimes, but I walk away before he can get to me. To this day, I'm still sickened by the fact that they thought it was okay for this kid to be sexually abusing girls. That he was just expressing himself. F off. Literally F off. I'm glad that no one's gotten seriously harmed. I just wish both entitled kid and his parents got harsher punishments. But maybe I'm asking too much. Well, unfortunately, entitlement isn't a crime, so we're just gonna have to keep putting up with it for a while. So this next story is called, Entitled Mom Wants Graphics Card for Free. So backstory, my friend wants to buy my old GPU, or graphics card, because I bought a new one, and because where I'm from, the graphics card are painfully expensive, I thought I would sell him the old one for 80% off. He said sure, thanks, blah blah blah. He tells me to come install it. I say sure. Here's when the story starts. So I just finished installing the GPU and it's working. I say, "Here you go, all seems good, give me a call if something goes to crap and I'll give you back the money." Friend says, "Thanks." His entitled mom enters the room. "Why are you giving him money?" He says, "I bought from him a GPU that he doesn't use." He made a big no-no by saying I don't use it. She says, well, if he doesn't use it, then why doesn't he give it to you for free? I say, well, it's already 80% off the original price. She says, I don't care. If you don't use it, give it to us for free. He needs it. My friend says, Mom, stop. I bought it already. She says, be quiet. Now give back the money you took from my son. And my friend got pissed himself and gave me an escort out of the house. Sorry for my mom. She can be annoying sometimes. I say, it's all good. I was just a bit shocked. She later called my mom, where she got the number I have no clue, demanding the money back. But I already explained to her the situation, so she just hung up. Sorry if it was a boring story, but thanks for reading. A GTX 950 in my country costs $200 to $230, so I gave it to him for $50. Wow, that is pretty crazy. You can buy one in the US for about $80, but it is kind of an outdated card. Okay, so the next one is called My Child Wants Entertainment, so your fracture doesn't matter. So context, basically this happened 4 years ago. I had a freak accident that broke my right index finger at all 3 joints and the middle bone. Luckily, all clean breaks. I had it in a cast for about 3 months, but because I had school I needed to write. I had to get an improvised thing with a piece of cotton gauze on both my fingers, which then got bunched in the middle with some antiseptic to avoid infection. This would then be surrounded by the tape holding it in place. So I was 5 months into the fracture, and the top 2 joints healed, but the most painful one at the bone hadn't healed, so my hand was still in bad condition. I was in the hospital waiting for my turn. I had to replace the gauze and tape every 6 hours because too much sweat and oil would have accumulated. I was in the hospital and had taken out the gauze and tape from my bag onto this seat next to me, and was searching for the antiseptic. Enter entitled mom and entitled kid. So the kid had taken my gauze and tape and was playing with it. Why he thought it was a toy, I don't know. I had no protection on my hand and was holding it gingerly as I walked to the kid and tapped his shoulder, and this is how the conversation went. Translated from Hindi. I say, hi, could I have those back? I need it for my fracture. He was about 4 years younger than me. He says, no, these are mine. I found them. I say, I need these for my hand. It's hurting a little. Could I have it back? He says, no, I found it. It's mine. I'm getting angry. Kid, I need those back. They're helping my fracture heal. The kid says, no, I told you. It's mine and mine only. At this point, I just snatch it out of his hand and walk back to my seat. The kid starts bawling and goes to his mom. The mom approaches me. Did you snatch that toy out of his hand? I say, it wasn't a... You can't snatch a toy out of his hand if it belongs to him. It's just tape with some materials that he found. Give it back to him. I say, I need it for my... Stop delaying and give it back before I grab it. I need it for my hand. It's mine. She says, your hand? There's nothing wrong with your hand. At this point, she grabs it by the wrist and flings it upward. I give out this deafening yell in pain. She says, don't be such a drama queen. There's nothing wrong with you. Now, my dad hears this and runs out of the doctor's room with some more gauze and tape to see me sweating and practically hyperventilating. At this point, I couldn't breathe properly and passed out, so my dad fills me in on the rest of this. He says, OP, what happened? What happened? Where's the tape? I faint. The mom says, such a drama queen. My dad says, what did you say to my son? She says, what? He stole my son's toy. He found some tape and some cotton that OP snatched. My dad says, my son has 2 fractures on his hand and 2 others that just healed. Are you trying to break his hand? Those were his. Prescribed by his doctor. She says, I don't care about your son. He stole my son's toy. He says, those were my sons, you idiot. At this point, the doc had come out, called the required emergency number, and interrupted entitled mom. Yep, the kid was still crying. The doc says, excuse me, that tape was meant for my patient. She says, no, it belongs to my son. He found it, not that brat. The conversation continued for a little more time, and then the hospital security came and escorted her out of the building. My dad was given the choice to press charges, which he did. I don't actually know what happened to her. I woke up 2 hours later with new gauze, tape, and antiseptic on my hand. Wow. You know, I think that what really drives this kind of behavior is just unbelievable pride. When somebody cannot admit that they did something wrong, even with all of the evidence pointing against them, then you can definitely tell there's something wrong with them. But hey, entitlement is driven by pride. So let's get into the next one, called Entitled Mom Gets Mad at Me for Getting a 105 on a test when her son got a 95 on the same test. Assault, meltdowns, and hospitals follow. So I had just taken an accelerated math test, and I got a 105 on it. My friend, nice kid, got a simply amazing 95. It's after class and we're walking to the bus. And all of a sudden, Entitled Mom comes up. I say, hi, Entitled Mom. The kid says, hi, Mom. The mom says, hey, guys. Hey, nice kid. Can I see your test? He says, sure, Mom. She sees his test. What? 95? Not too bad. How about you? I say, I got 105. This is when she goes total Karen. She says, what? How dare you do better than my son? You were so selfish. Give me that test. It belongs to my son. Congrats on your 95. I say, heck no. This is my test and I did good on it. She says, no, my son did that. Get your freaking hands off my son's test right now. The nice kid says, Mom, please. She says, no, it's your test. Good job on your 105, nice kid. Take it. He says, no, give it back to him. She says, no, take it, and go to the car. Go. My friend says, hey, teacher? He says, yes. My mom is trying to make me take his test, and I don't want to do it. Teacher says, entitled mom, can you please give him his test back? No, it's my kid's test. Stop harassing me or the police will be called. He and my classmates step in. Entitled mom, stop. It's his test. Yeah, hand it back to him. She says, that's it. I'm calling the police. The principal says, Miss, what's wrong? They tried to take my kid's test. I demand detention and expulsion of him right now. The principal says, well, let's just see the test. He looks at it. He looks at mine and gives it back. She says, no, I'm calling the police and having you all arrested for harassment and false accusations. 10 minutes later, the police say, hello, guys. May I ask what's wrong? She says, he tried to steal my son's test. Arrest them now for harassment and false accusations, or I'll have you all fired. The police officer says, let's see the test. He looks at it. Whose name here is me? The entitled mom says, his, pointing to her own kid. Kid says, no, it's his. He points to me. She says, no, my son is me. Just a pause for real quick in this story. Maybe they could have used a different term than me as to refer to themselves, because it's getting really confusing to narrate this whole thing. Anyways, back to the story. So the classmates say, nice kid is right. Entitled mom's son is the nice kid. He's me. So the police officer says, Miss, I'll have to take you in for harassment and false accusations. Please put your hands behind your back. She says, no, pulls her hands away. Okay, how about we add resisting arrest to your charges? She says, shut up. She's now dashing to her car as the police officer runs after her. It gets to the point where the police officer smashes the window of her car, and she tries to drive away, but he battened the key out of the hole somehow. The police catches the entitled mom, and she's charged with 1 count of harassment, 2 counts of false accusations, and 3 accounts of resisting arrest. It just goes to show how stupid people can be. Maybe she'd have used my test as an excuse to entitleize another item? But there's more. At court, all witnesses were there, and when Nice Kid testified against his mom, crap hit the fan and entitled mom left her place in the courtroom and jumped on the Nice Kid, punching, scratching, and slapping him bloody. The officers immediately took her away, and she was charged with 3 counts of assault of a minor and was put away for 25 years. Only 2 weeks into her sentence, she lashed out at a guard and tried to kill him, and she's now stuck in solitary. After the court meltdown, Nice Kid was taken to the hospital with a broken nose, bleeding, scratches and scars, and some bruises from the slaps. So yeah. Wow, out of all of the stories I've told so far, this one might be the hardest for me to believe, but it's honestly pretty entertaining. I just don't understand how someone can just snap and go that insane over something so minor. But I guess, like I said with the last story, some people's pride just gets the best of them and they just lose control. And on to the final and longest story for today, called Entitled Mom Wants to Steal My Birthday Cake. My mother terrifies her and her kid into backing off. So I've recently encountered an entitled mother at Waitrose in the UK. This story features me only as a partial spectator, and my mom is the victim of the entitled mom. Or entitled mom the victim of my mother, in all honesty. Happened over a week ago, but only now getting the time to write it. So for some context, all of you here in the UK know that this is a fairly pricey grocery store aimed at the middle upper class. Me and my parents rarely go in it unless we have good coupons or want cakes, as their bakery is utterly delicious and not as pricey as everything else. This happened about a week ago, and we recently had my 21st birthday, and my parents had decided to order me a whole rainbow cake as my birthday cake as a treat, which only cost about £20, $16. What? I don't think he has that exchange rate. Right, I think that would be more like $25. Anyway, this cake is always at high demand, as it is one of their best sellers, meaning that the only way you're likely to get one full is if you order online or come really early to the store. You simply place an order and the cake is reserved for you at the date, where you can pick it up and pay at the store. Simple enough, right? I know it comes as a little bit childish, but the cake is delicious and I love colors, to heck with it. So it was the day before my birthday, my parents had driven into town, and I came along for the free ride, and at the end of the day, we headed towards the shop to pick up the cake. By the time we had gotten into the shop and into the little bakery section, we did not see many people around waiting to be served, but we did see a lot of people who had stopped dead in their tracks to watch a lady. I want to say she had the "I want to speak to your manager" hair, but she really didn't. She looked like the most common middle-aged blonde with no identifiable taste in clothes. Tacky and straight up ugly. The most memorable thing was that likely her massive nails and the freaking infinite amount of rings on her fingers. Tacky, fake rings to match her ugly accent, that she waved as she yelled at the employee behind the counter. With her, she had a girl who didn't look over 10 or 12. I can't really tell kids' age anymore in modern times. I heard an audible sigh from my own mother, who then rolled her eyes. It was a busy day. As we get closer, this is the conversation that I could make out. She says, "What do you mean you have no rainbow cakes?" She yells. The employee says, "I'm sorry, ma'am, we're all out for today. We sold our last daily patch at 2 p.m. Says, "Well, go check again, you idiot. I need it for my daughter's birthday." "It is a special occasion." The child I did not want to pass judgment on until I saw and heard this. The little girl started whining and banging on the counter. It was very tall, so she couldn't reach anything, so instead she banged on the lower half of it, kicking it and crying. The kid says, "Mommy, you promised. I want it, I want it, I want it. I was my unicorn." She then emitted this ugly and high-pitched screech that made my back shiver. The employee says, "Ma'am, please calm down. There's nothing I can do for you." She says, "Well, then make one. That's why you're here for, aren't you? You lazy cow. This country is going to crap because friggin' lazy immigrants like you get friggin' jobs and do nothing useful." She berated the woman. I'm not even sure why. The woman at the counter was English and spoke it perfectly. Heck, better than me. The employee says, "Ma'am, you need to calm down." She says, "Don't tell me what to do, you dirty immigrant. I'm here to spend money. Go make a new one and make use of yourself. I need it today and no later. Where else do you think I'm going to get a cake for my little princess?" By now, the entitled kid was thrashing everything about and dropping this and items on the floor and picked them out of her mother's basket and chucking them about in protest. The employee says, "Ma'am, I'm sorry, but we're unable to start baking anything at this hour. And even if I could, I do not have the time." The entitled mother continues staring at the employee as if she was an alien, speaking in another language. My mom and me are not pleasant people when we are tired. My mother simply shoves past the woman and approaches the counter, pushing the woman aside, making her gasp. My stepfather standing between my mother and her. My mom says, "Hello," she said with a smile as the employee wasn't doing anything wrong. I knew my parents were worried that they may have sold the reserved cake, but my mom decided to ask anyway. She says, "Excuse me, I heard that you ran out, but we reserved a cake, and if you still have it, we'd love to pick it up." The employee smiles and says, "Oh, are you Miss So-and-so?" My mother noted as the entitled mom stared at the interaction. She tried to yell and ask my mom to move, but she simply ignored her like a bad smell in a large room. The employee proceeds to open a second cabinet and take out a box, open it and show a full rainbow cake. The entitled mom says, "Wait, you say you didn't have any more, you freaking liar?" The employee says, "Yes, ma'am, we have no available cakes. This was reserved to be picked up at 5 p.m. today." She looks at my mother and tells her with an angry look, "Listen here, I was here first. This is my daughter's cake. Give it to me. My little darling has a birthday in 2 days. My mom says, "Well, this one is for my daughter's birthday tomorrow. You should have ordered it like I did." The entitled mom looks at me with a disgusted look. "You are an adult. What the F is wrong with you? You are too old for a cake." I say, "And you are too old and ugly to throw a tantrum." "Excuse me? You heard me, or are you deaf as well as brain challenged?" You know that iron look and that moveless turn of the neck, where the body stands in one direction like a rock and only the head moves. My mother turned to her and calmly asked in a booming but calm voice, completely ignoring this conversation. She says, "Did you order one online?" I said, "No, but..." "Did you wait here?" "What? But you freaking..." I'll take that as an uneducated no. I'm not giving you crap and your spoiled brat can suck it. Learn how to shut your brat's mouth too. She says, "Do not tell me how to parrot." The kid was now crying and screeching. My mother turns to the whining kid and yells at her, in a booming voice that shook the room, "Shut up, you spoiled brat!" The kid visibly spooks and turns dead silent. All color drained out of its face, looking at her with the most terrified look in her eyes, not even crying, only stared at her like a deer in the headlights. My mother turned back to the employee and said with a smile, "Will that be 20 pounds? She nodded her head yes, and thanked her for the payment and ordering the cake online. The entitled mother then suddenly tried to push past mine and grabbed the cake on the counter. My father's shoulder rose out of reflex to get in the way, but luckily during the conversation and shuffled closer. close enough to harshly step forward towards the gap in between, right onto the entitled mom's foot, making her yelp and look down onto her broken front heel. "You fat jerk," she yells. I smiled and said, "Oh, my bad, shouldn't have gotten in the way." She said, "You stepped on me." I say, "I sure did," I replied with a smile, and moved away as my mother started walking away. The woman tried to chase after us, but couldn't as she had a small limp and her child just teared up a little. Honestly, maybe that will teach her a little more humility, and an appropriate way to be upset rather than throwing a tantrum. My mother would have crucified me if I ever pulled something like that as a kid. I want to say I hope that the kid learned a lesson and doesn't grow up to be like that, but I highly doubt it. At least I got my cake and had a great birthday, and now I have a fun story to tell. Oh, wow. Well, I hope you enjoyed my attempt at a trashy British accent in this story. Oh man, these are some pretty great stories for today, so hopefully you guys all enjoyed, and I will talk to you guys tomorrow.